So first mid here, they're a little bit faster. Their demo is. We'll just kind of pencil jump, but you're a little locked out here. I think there were some stickies. Maybe they got that, but Radiant can't really get in easily. That's like not the biggest deal, but everyone's kind of pretty far back here. There's not a lot of space being made. You know, if the soldiers are going up, a scout can kind of like challenge lower, draw some eyes there, or you know, have a scout up here, or you know, jump up there. Just having everybody grouped up is not super helpful. That dude is just like the only person that's out there, so they're just gonna take a lot of spam and die. And then Floofy's gonna, yeah, when you cross back over, that's kind of GG's. Basically, like around by the time that dude dies, I mean, you know, Radiant's in a doorway, Floofy's in a doorway, Precursor's in a doorway, and everyone else is before the doorway. You're just kind of, you know, it's kind of like both a speed and taking a little bit of space there. The cure to that is be a little bit faster, unfortunately. And then the second part of that would be either being aggressive or totally passive if you can't get in. So like Radiant was like totally passive, but then your scouts were also passive. So kind of need that balance there. Somebody needs to draw eyes. So this is the last hold that immediately follows that. Gonna be even Ubers, so red pops, blue pops. Everyone's kind of collapsing. I mean, this is as good as it gets. Gonna be a little bit careful about here. It doesn't seem like anybody knows who exactly. And sorry, there's no sentry that you can see on this fight, but who's going to be standing on there? Well, Uber's out. It's kind of fine for it to be anybody, but if it's everybody, then you have to flash everyone. So just be careful there. Now it's like totally winning for you guys. So that's great. Luffy does a good job of sticking. I like the first sticky. You know, when it's winning, you basically just want to make sure that they can't leave, and it looks like your soldiers are doing a good job of. Yeah, dude does a great job. Radiant does a good job there of just making so they can't leave. Oh, unfortunately, that dude dies. But yeah, so right there, if you're a demo man, you just want to like cover their exits. I like the first juggle is really good, but every sticky after that should be, you know, behind them and not in front of them. And then, oh, you guys got to be really fast chasing out. Precursor should have swapped. I mean, once they're down 6-3 or whatever, you should just swap off. Like it's a done deal. Speed is going to be a big thing here of being able to push out, because you need to like cover all these like ratting spots, like somebody there, that kind of stuff. So the faster you can go, the easier it is to have eyes on everybody. Plus, you know, theoretically you could stop some spawners, so that's not always gonna happen. So speed there. As soon as you realize you're gonna win and they have no chance of capping, just swap off and start pushing. You know, if it's like, you know, 3-5 and you're like, we're definitely pushing, but we want to keep our sentry up, that's fine too. But if it's decisive, you should just go and go fast. This is something I've noticed a little bit of, and I think this is the second time I've seen it, so I'm gonna call it out now in case it keeps coming up. But you can see it here, and it's like happens a decent, or I suspect it happens a decent amount of like people grouping up a little too much and not being aware of like, you know, somebody like check this. If you're the enemy demo man and you shoot a pipe, you don't even like have to aim. You could shoot at Floofy, you could shoot at the soldier, and pretty much anybody that you hit Do, it's gonna hit everybody more or less. And if Do steps out of the way, well, it hits Scribbles or you know whatever. Like, you know, there's a multiplicative danger that gets created when you stack up. Not to mention that you're not all together, or you're not watching different things. Like Precursor's spotting down below, that's good. I think Floofy rightly moves over to to handle their combo because it seemed like they were for a little bit at least stacking like 4 or 5 people in there, and I think that's smart to rotate your demo over there during that time. You know, if you're S, you should either just go, okay, great, we have a little bit too much. Dude's probably like, I'm gonna stay here for a little bit and then see what needs to happen. But having a scout rotate would be really smart, or just otherwise getting away from each other is really good because it just, makes your eyes better and it makes your ability to avoid damage a lot stronger as well. Here's kind of a subtle thing I wanted to highlight. Your medic gets forced here by a soldier. Just, I don't think we had either enough eyes or didn't have enough denial there. But that happens sometimes. But what I wanted to highlight is that you guys actually pick up 2 kills during this time, and you're still Ubered. You go in, and I think right after here, yeah, you pick up another kill, which is great. And so normally you're thinking like, oh, we're in a really bad spot. We got forced, all that kind of stuff. But what I think you did well here is I think you recognized like, oh my God, we're up 6-3, and you just chased. I think if you're up 5-3 or better, chasing for that Uber is like great. I wouldn't commit your med here necessarily, but or your demos kind of getting hung out a little bit. But the idea, at least, of going, hey, we need to take advantage of this temporary advantage we've created is like a really good impulse. So even though I think there's still a little bit to work on in terms of like timing and stuff like that, it kind of seemed like everybody was surprised to be up 6-3, which is reasonable. I think still to be like, oh, this is a good position, we should move in is the right one. So it might not have worked out exactly how you wanted, but I think it's still the right call. This is a small thing, but right now you guys are even Ubers, holding your second. And so what you should be expecting is for them to send a sack. If you're trying to make that hard for them, a few things that you can do are one, your med, if you play in like a doorway, is really strong because you see them jumping in, you can just, basically turn around and the soldier will have to land right at the doorway, basically. It makes it a lot easier for your teammates to kill them. If you're hanging out here, or even too far up here, it's a lot easier for you to get forced. I think in the last clip that we looked at, you're hanging out around there. And it just makes it a little bit easier. I think that one you just didn't see him coming, and so you popped because you're like, I'm not sure how much damage I'm about to take, which I think is pretty reasonable. But I don't know if the soldier goes in yet or not, but yeah, it's a little bit better to get away from him. And see, even here, you're just a little caught if they jump you. So just something to keep in mind. So I think for raiding, well, more specifically, just for anybody over here, but generally it's your soldier. This is something you don't necessarily know, so I'm not saying this is the wrong play or anything like that. But if their medic, if you can identify that their medic is not an alley, not by necessarily checking like specifically, but you see, their beam or something like that. You see somebody rounding the corner pretty heavy, like say, past maybe around there. You should really consider pushing them, bombing them, fading. All those are good options. If it's you and you have a scout with you, it's often a good idea. You don't even have to do a full commit. You don't have to go, all right, this is me or you, buddy. One of us is making it out alive. You can just jump in the air, shoot a couple rockets, and then, just jump back kind of stuff. Because it's just going to put a lot of pressure on them. If you think about like, okay, well, if I'm that soldier and somebody does that to me, I go, great, I can handle that once. I grab a health pack, I'm okay again. And then what if it happens right after that? It's like, well, okay, there's a health pack cooldown. What do I want to do? Maybe I need to get out of here. Maybe I'm actually like gonna die or whatever. So that's something to consider. It's not good if they have a medic there because the answer to that is I'm gonna get healed by my medic. but it's they got a little bit of health there, but not a lot. And if they hang out there, by themselves, or if there's 2 of them and you just get some good spam on them, that's really strong. So getting a little bit better spam is always an option, especially if you have, let's say that your pocket scout is, or whichever scout you have on the right is close by. They can, temporarily show a little bit of force, and then you can back up and just give you guys a little bit of breathing room, or potentially turn it into a pick. I saw ahead on this one, but here your medic gets forced, and we just want to see what happens. So they had 2 soldiers. I think we know for sure they had 2 soldiers, yeah, in alley. So we know that they're going for a sack. We know where their soldiers are. We know this is where soldiers like to sack from. It's a guarantee that you're going to get one or two soldiers high bombing in. So I think Floofy's doing okay by shifting because they're showing a lot of force. There though, they're not going to push in. It's okay to like, I don't know, maybe leave some traps up there. I think is like a really good idea. And then just shoot sticky or shoot pipes or whatever. But I don't mind the slight rotation, but can't also have your pocket scout looking out. You know, this should be really high alert for they're going to be bombing. So getting up to height is good. If you really want to get up there, you can. But at the very least, just like, you know, keeping some eyes and shooting at them. What happens is they bomb in. One of them, I don't even think goes for a fade, just kind of messes up. But the second one comes in, and you know, like we talked about before, you know, your med can turn a corner. That also requires that you have teammates that go for the kill, and you know, the med's forced, and you know, you also had to pull your flank scout all the way over. So you got to really be thinking like, hey, what's the thing that's about to happen, and what's likely to happen is they're gonna, um, you know, they're gonna send a sack or two. That's what you would do in that situation. So, um, being really looking out for that, you know, even when they're showing a little bit of force here, you know, you got to be thinking, well, why are they doing that? It's probably because they want to draw a little bit of eyes. So, especially if you're a scout, you're not going to be doing anything with spamming a doorway. Just your biggest thing you can do is just stop a bomb or somebody from getting behind you. You guys do well in these last events, especially like when they Uber in. You do a good job of like I think utilizing your Uber in terms of like milking pretty well from what I've seen. I guess you don't have until now and you use, but in another example, I saw you kind of doing the same thing of like figuring out like how long can I wait before somebody's going to take too much damage, and then like I like that you're going straight for whoever's in the fray. People can kind of get out, and then I think that well, it's kind of hard to tell if you're the demo there. I think it's hard to get your bearings of like. It turns out that you actually had a huge advantage there, but it might not be obvious until you've you know aren't the first player closest to their team. So you guys should be pushing out really fast. Yeah, I would not go back to spawn if I'm radiant. I know that you're probably a little bit low on health and ammo, but just like grabbing some right here is good. Plus, it lets you cover that rat spot. I think they did that. I don't know that I showed it, but they ratted there. So just let you check that. You know, most of the time, speed is on a last push out is so much more important than having full health, especially if it's like, I could use a little bit more health. I could use a little bit more ammo, that kind of thing. This is slightly unfortunate, but um, maybe illustrates a little bit of a point. Though I think that you guys got punished crazy for it. You guys are pushing out on Uber ad. I like that you guys have started to mobilize. Oh, whoops! Started to mobilize early. You know, you have 30% ad. You know that you do, and you're starting to make some space. I think that's great. Um, like going through alley here. I like that you're doing it slowly and doing it early. The one thing I wanted to bring up is your F Scout is kind of hanging back and not really watching. I think it was like watching down here before, and it's like that's seen by other people, so you don't really need that. And it's like, okay, well, great. What do I look at? Do I go into house? And it's like not really as Scout. You kind of want to have on this map. You kind of want a soldier that watches it. I don't know why, but we tend to on my team have our pocket soldier go there. I think just because of like where positions tend to be. Doesn't really matter, but you know, and you don't really even have to push there. You mostly are just trying to lock that down. What happens here is I think you start to do that rotate, and precursor goes in it, and then they happen to have two people, so it's a bit unfortunate. I don't think that that's indicative of what's normal, but yeah, just having that on push outs like that, I'd like to have one soldier there because you can kind of just prevent anybody from getting behind you. I noticed that this happened a handful of times already. I haven't really talked about it yet, but there's a lot of times where Radiant, you're, I think, correctly identifying that, well, maybe not in this case, but generally correctly identifying we're trying to take space. I need to get going up here. But you're often, okay, don't even worry about that. I guess just do that. But generally, you're like way out of sync with your team here. Um, like you have precursor here, but a lot of times I'll just see you kind of like alone. Um, and I'm not sure if it's not calling where you're at, what you're trying to do, that type of stuff, or if you're just too fast, or your team's too slow, or if people are calling for something else and you're going for that by yourself. But I've just noticed it a few times, mostly on this map, especially in Valley, just because it's like such a big area. Your positions are correct, and I think your ideas are correct. It's just that you end up being a solo player rather than working directly with your team. Now, if you keep getting medic drops, then you can just do that, but but just be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. And then right after you almost wipe their team, chase here, just leave one person. I mean, you you should be thinking, we get these kills if we can get our demo man to here in the next like 3 seconds or something like that. Sticky that up, let them spawn. They're dead. I mean, like they're gonna be waiting for you to cap so they can back spawn and get their sentry gun up. Like um, there's not a whole lot of benefit to back spawning there. So right there, you could have killed that medic if you were moving a little bit faster. Um, Small optimization, but just some stuff to think about of like, you know, if you can identify how big of a lead you have, you can get a lot more value than you were originally thinking. Right now you could be, I mean, you've had for a little bit. So imagine you kill that med. You could be, most of your team could be here about now-ish. So they could have 20%. You could be getting in, looking for sentry. You see no sentry, you just, start killing people, honestly. You could probably get 2 kills if you're fortunate. It's a little bit harder with sniper. Maybe you'd call it off, but so we think about that as like a, you know, 80% ad situation you could have. Now you guys might be fast coming up. I haven't watched yet, but we'll see if you can make use of it. Okay, yeah, you pop it in, you still have 50%. I think that's you guys do a good enough job taking advantage of that. And your Uber pushes have been generally good, so hopefully this goes well. Oh, I would not ever have medic on point here unless all of their team is dead, I think. Or it's 1v1 and you're the medic. There's just not a need for you to be there. I think this might be fine. It's hard to tell. Nah, it doesn't work out. But a couple things happen there. We can watch it real fast. Again, your demo bombs in, you come in, your team is not really, well, dude's in. Precursor goes through the closet. That's tough. Yeah, Radiant's not quite ready. And then your demo gets killed by something. Just Uber's done. Yeah, it looks like Uber's done. You just don't quite get the kill on that. So that's just a lack of damage, which comes from, not being together. So I guess even though I was complimenting your speed of not wasting your Uber advantage, you probably should have waited a little bit longer just to make sure everybody was ready to go in, because you basically got stuffed. You got 2 different flanks stuffed. A scout through closet because that soldier is watching, and then a soldier on the one-on-one, which I would be okay with that one. This one I would be really careful of, and then you just had a player who wasn't ready to go in, and so as a result, you're kind of doing like a 3v5, 3v6. Actually, well, whatever. And so if you ever miss any shots or things don't go your way, it just is really painful. So, like being fast, but fast only counts if everybody's ready. Small thing for Radiant here, I like your positioning. You're like the ultimate doorway watcher, and You get a lot of kills as a result of it, and that's great. You don't have eyes everywhere, so some of this is due to them calling, but you should be thinking like, I don't see their medic. They're probably, your teammate's probably calling that somebody's in house or whatever. You should, as far as you can tell, you killed their flank scout. You don't see a roamer. I would just go for it, man. I would not for the house, but I would go look at this beautiful lane that you've created for yourself. You can go here, grab your health pack, and then, you know, either go fast high bomb to just see, or I'd probably just do a little jump and see what's going on. You probably peek here and then realize their soldier isn't watching here either. And from there, world's your oyster. You either go in for a mega flank, you try to pull some bodies back, which I would probably do in like 80% of cases, especially if you're a scout. But if you're a soldier, that's generally fine too. And basically the timing you want to do on that is if you can, as soon as they commit to the fight, so if they pop or whatever, oh my god, you could get huge kills. Of course, you just happen to get a force and a kill, so it doesn't matter. But imagine you came through this angle. That's like a full. But we're just gonna call it a 4K just because you can't disprove it. So, just to be thinking about like, do I have is do I actually have an open flank? Is there anybody in my way? And in that case, I think you would have found no resistance, or in some cases maybe one soldier, but that's good odds. I think one issue that you're having on mids is, I mean, we talked about it earlier of like kind of clumping up here, but also like radiant staying locked out and that type of thing. Basically, like you don't have a lot of active position besides do. And Floofy generally isn't like where you want to be as a demo man, which is just kind of like out there shooting at stuff. I think there's a few things to consider. One is one that S I think goes for and just misses a jump, which is staying back here, and then just like jumping out to meet any soldiers bombing. You can also have like a scout. I think a forward position on a scout is really good. It feels really out in the open, but if you look at the actual sight lines, like what a demo maybe can shoot you kind of through here and then has to mostly blind at, like that's not great. Soldiers largely will ignore you. Like scouts are basically your biggest issue, and it's like, okay, great, that's not too big of a deal. And then if they ignore you, you can kind of jump in, do some damage, jump back out. Basically, just like makes people have to look at the ground, which means that they're not looking at the sky, which means that your soldiers have a little bit easier chance. So that's one thing to consider for scouts. The other thing is, the first round that we looked at, Radiant got locked out, but if you're not locked out by that, you can get some safe-ish spam that will only ever lead into the 90 100 damage that you can do, and will never really lead to kills and won't create space for you, and you can't get in if you just spam from here. It's acceptable if you get locked out, you get locked out, right? But if the only thing that's looking at you is like a soldier over here, I would highly consider just like, let me back up, show it. Run out, jump, high bomb. Don't have to land on anybody. In this case, you just kind of look around and you're like, okay, who's actually available? Like here, there's a soldier by himself. Like you can kill that soldier, or get them off of the top left, make people shoot at you or whatever. You could just jump up to here, single jump. Big thing you can do is jump, circle all the way around, and then just like land anywhere, not on somebody. And during that time, basically nobody can lock you out. You get a spam advantage. It lets your scouts move forward. Maybe a scout even can come up there if they want to, or you can take, position here, or most commonly, just let you deal with the one guy there. Because as it stands, watch they get a soldier up. Just what we were talking about. They win the 1v1. Now suddenly you have to have 4 people looking at that soldier, and then that allows this other soldier to bomb in. So, I mean, there it's like, well, your scout could get up top or whatever. Your soldier could win the 1v1. But you can't, you can also have the demo shoot there and not do other damage. But basically you need a little bit more activity on this mid, uh, which is why a lot of teams, and I would even recommend doing this, just go for a quick double bomb by soldiers, or yeah, a double bomb. So have one soldier here, go for a high bomb and or fade. Soldier here, go for a high bomb and or fade. Um, Often just like land on people and trade out some damage. And during that time, let your scouts get a cross point, get height, move your demo wherever your demo wants to go, that kind of stuff. But as it stands, it looks like these mids you've been losing as a result of your passivity, and specifically because you are not taking space whenever you can, because it's just like a real tough mid to um, not to basically give up any space at all. Is just like gonna crunch you in a corner. So um, a lot, but basically what I'm saying is get out of there if you can. Go for high bombs, go for fades. You don't have to land on anybody. Your scouts get some high ground, and it allows your medic to always retreat, but it doesn't force your medic to preemptively retreat. It's a safe position if you can, keep soldiers away from you. But um, yeah, that's just some stuff to think about in terms of how to handle that mid fight. I've noticed this before in a slightly different way, but your demo man, I would consider diversifying your traps a little bit more in these last holds. On a true last, or sorry, on a disad last, I would just throw them on point at least 5 or 6 or something like that. But if it evens out, I saw earlier putting like 6 up here or something like that. A lot better to just put it in a few different spots. You could have 2 there, 3 there, 3 there, that type of thing, or have some there or there or there. Basically, you're not gonna get if 5 stickies kills, the 6 sticky does nothing, right? So thinking about what are my stickies doing, 2 is usually gonna damage enough for your teammates to kill. 3 might kill yourself, 4 ensures for that type of stuff. Last, you just want to hold on the point in almost every situation, but um, whenever you're not doing that, just thinking about like, I can always split. You can split an 8 trap into 2 4s without losing any kill power at all. Small communication issue that I'm mostly doing because I I wouldn't talk about unless I'd seen this type of thing happen before. But you get a ton of damage on the scout. This. I mean, this scout was at literally maximum health, and you hit him for enough to bring him down. Yeah, you did 150 or something like that on him. So that scout's almost dead. And I think you even hit him for a little bit more. Your scout is here. You should be saying like that scout is literally 1 health. Like go kill that guy. So I think what I've seen from you, Radiant, do a lot is call things after they've, let's say, after you've reloaded 2 rockets after the thing has occurred, or even 1 rocket after the thing has occurred, and totally resolved, which is like, okay, well, you can't do anything with that. The thing is resolved. Instead of saying like, here is what's happening or what I think might happen. Like, I am fighting the scout. Like, please help me kill the scout, or like, push this guy, this kind of stuff. But even if it's like scout's taking 120, like that should be enough, and you did 150s. That type of stuff where you can discuss your ongoing damage to allow your teammates to help you out. This is a hard thing, even though it looks really simple in replays, but it's just happened a few times, and it's a thing that needs to continuously be worked on, which is, you're stacking the point with 5 people, and I understand that, like, if you're the demo man, you go, I'm the only person being healed right now, I got to get on there, or I'm the scout, I was the closest I could get to it, soldier's already committed, demo's like, great, I can actually block it, like all that kind of stuff is happening simultaneously. The medic doesn't need to get on there, and the heavy should know by that point to not go, but the way that you fix that is like playing together more and being like, I got point, or I'll be the person to get onto point or whatever. Nothing major, nothing that I think that is like easy to be like, you should never ever have this issue. But just something to keep in mind that I think it's been a couple times now where people are like, I'm jumping on point. I think it really helps to have people who are like, I won't get on point. Like when I play demo for my team, it's like kind of understood that I'm not getting on point. My medic is not getting on point. Generally, we have our soldiers go first, but sometimes the scout has to jump on or whatever. And and then that lets you, as if you're the demo man, be like, okay, actually, I have to override the thing that we were talking about, and the decision to override is a lot. It makes it a lot clearer for everyone rather than everybody trying to make these independent decisions. You have like a baseline understanding of like who's going when. That's definitely a thing to work on, in that it's not easy to just be like, okay, great, we'll fix that and we'll never have that issue again. But um, just some things to keep in mind about um, what your mentality should be there. You know, who's going first, that type of stuff. Here's something I like that I notice you guys not doing at the very, very beginning of the season, or not season, whatever, that you're doing now, which is Radiant gets pushed or somebody gets pushed because they're focusing people over here. He jumps out because he goes, I can't handle that. And presumably either calls it or Floofy recognizes that. And Floofy then moves over to cover that hole in the defense, especially as demo. That's great. So it just fell off, but still the idea is there of like look how much you stuff that push just by like rotating that over. And you actually need a little bit more help. I'd like to see Precursor. I'm not really sure what Precursor's doing on point here, but looks like lagging out mostly. But I mean, like, look, just by rotating over, you've already gotten 3 people to half health. The Uber, they get Ubered, they don't get Ubered, whatever. Like at the end of the Uber, they're still going to be at more or less half health. That's huge. And look at this, Radiant can jump in, gets a kill, gets 2 more kills than when I play it back in my mind, but maybe only gets the one. Like that's huge. So that shift in rotation is like why that defense worked. And just wanted to point it out because it wasn't a thing that you guys were doing, you know, a couple of weeks ago. So that's like a huge improvement. I don't have a lot to say about this mid. I mostly just wanted to watch it with the idea in mind of like, you know, who's taking space, how's space being made, are we giving stuff up? So just something to watch and think about. Boy, howdy, Precursor is lacking. I think this one's a little bit of just being flustered, but so I normally wouldn't bring it up except that I think that this is a very unambiguous situation. And you guys are playing it, I think maybe with some ambiguity. So both meds lived mid. You guys are down 6-3. They are definitely going to be pushing with 5 players and leaving a scout at the very most. They might push with all 6, but usually leave a scout. So you know, if you guys have Uber, they have Uber, and vice versa. You know, you might be off by 1% or whatever, or a couple percent, but so scout, medic, and a soldier. Your goals are, if they have Uber, you could maybe sack a soldier at most. It's a little hard to know, but your med wants to get Uber. Your scout wants to get back and switch to an off class. There's no way you can do this. They're going to be chasing you and trying to kill your medic, and should be successful. So I think your med knows, hey, we gotta get the hell out of here. Scout is in way too deep here. Scout needs to be escorting that medic really fast. Your soldier could be thinking about like a rat play, hiding somewhere, or otherwise bombing. But you can't commit if you don't have Uber because that means they don't have Uber. So they're coming out here. You know, anytime you're fighting, you can't even jump in. So yeah, your scout might get caught out. Hopefully your med lives this. Your soldier does too. Like I guess your soldier can spam a little bit just to slow him down. That's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, just thinking about how bad of a situation that is. Just you know, be thinking your goals are get back, get a sentry gun up if possible, keep your medic alive, all that good stuff. You're heavy here. You really want to be playing your heavy out to deny soldier bombs, that type of thing. So here are okay. Even here, as if your sentry is okay. kind of playing here as if you're protecting your own life, but your job is to be a target and stop them. So I'd like to see a lot more aggressiveness than back there, because right here you're basically denying nothing. You're better off being a sentry gun or like getting a sentry up. Yeah, you're getting a little bit better of a spot here. Basically, you'd only want to retreat if you're going into Ubers, and even then, it's just gonna like, you know, maybe just get Ubered yourself. Also, if you're lagging this bad as scout, on last holds you should get a sentry up because that sentry won't lag. Even if that's not what you normally do, but it's just, right now you're not going to be able to do much. You should make that heads up call. This is kind of a weird mid. Their their demoed bombs in, and that's just weird. I don't know. Right plays AM. I don't know why they're doing this. Anyway, you get into a weird situation. You kill that demo as you should, but your meta gets pushed. I would say it gets pushed to about there. Just is weird and kind of tough. But you basically have two choices. One, you and your scout immediately run back as soon as possible, and then you try to like make up for lost time. Or if you go for the south back, you have to tell the entire team like we are fully out, and you have to tell them. You have to tell them. You actually kind of like as you're getting launched over here, theoretically. I mean, it might take you a little bit to get to this point where you can be seeing all these possibilities, I guess. But when you're this far out of position, let me maybe draw a line for you. If you're beyond this line, if you're on this side, it's really hard for you to get back in. You kind of can only get to about there by the time that this mid is going to resolve. So if you're beyond this point, you should probably be like, guys, we might be out type of stuff. If you're this far out, you're kind of screwed. You can still make it back in. They lost a demo. That's like pretty tough to come back from. And I understand the impulse that you're at, 22 health. You will recover that health a lot faster than you think. Like, we're gonna see 22. Okay, so you got, your 80, whatever. By the time you get back here, you're nearly full health, which means you would have been, still one pipeable. No pipe though. So you recover a lot faster than you think that you will. Since that doesn't get called or doesn't get responded to, you're committed. You've fully committed to being totally out of this fight. And then you still have right after, demo thinks that we're still on. Scout thinks we're still on. Soldier thinks we're still on. You get the med kill, which is great. But even here, you're kind of dilly-dallying of like, are we in or out? Like once you pass this, you're like, you actually might be out of two even. So I don't think that you did anything wrong except for react to a novel situation. But the generalizable kind of idea there is if you're past this, you got to start calling like we're out. If you're passing these points, that box, there's no chance you're really getting back in. So people need to be following you out or fully committing or whatever. But I think that kind of stuff will come with time and good communication. So they once again go and send somebody deep. They send a soldier, which is a lot more normal, and something that you got to be ready for. And it kind of destroys you. And I think the irony of being all grouped up a lot of the time is that you don't have. It actually makes you really vulnerable to people pushing you there, which is weird because normally it's like you have 4 people in a position and they have 2 people. The 4 people win. It's just a really weak spot. Like it's a safe spot to hide from. Like kind of hard to get in, but it's not. You're on low ground. It's uneven. All that kind of stuff. So just getting vulnerable to that. Also, don't know why your med's out this way. Probably because everybody's flooding here. What you can do, you can send a scout that way you know, like especially if you're going to roof or whatever, you know, you can send people down this way. It gives you like more vision into stuff. Um, right now you're really vulnerable to like what I like to do is demo a lot of the time. Throw like a sticky or maybe two if it's working right above there. Check this out. Boom. Would have hit. Actually, it would have been not too good. I would have hit one of you guys though. Somebody would be dead for sure. um. So yeah, you kind of grouping up there still. And I'm sure that at that point that's probably pretty tilting to be medic and be like, I keep getting bombed. Why is nobody helping me? And it's like, well, some of that's being speed and a lot of it's vision, and part of that is like going out through um, back door is just vulnerable to not having any sight lines. Kind of a counterpoint. Earlier we saw Floofy Radiant had to pull back, and Floofy rotated over to stuff some people. Here we have kind of like the opposite happening. Dude's in the same situation presumably has to go back. That's a little bit dicey. You have to be anticipating they're coming in soon, so you got to be a little scared. But sometimes you gotta get ammo or whatever. Who's to say? Um, Luffy does react and shoot some stuff mostly in time. But if you look at your overall position, you know, you see them posturing like they're coming in. You're probably not gonna get. You're at 50%. I don't expect that's something you kind of learn. Like, are we gonna get or not? But your heavy's really far back. Your heavy's kind of playing his life here, and that's not really his job. Um, it'd be ideally at this point you have, you know, probably get a sentry against most teams, honestly, right now. On mids, if you're holding last, you just get a sentry up every time until it stops working, because I don't think most teams are going to be that fast. To watch, they get a lot of space. Floof is doing his best, got some biggies on point. They pop through. But yeah, you're never going to get Uber there. There's no place to kite to either. And like, jumping away, it's like, or you're dead. Just get some damage. But boom, you see that? Always sticky point. Yes, sir. Get 2 kills. Sticking point there actually might save you the round. Probably not, but oh my god, yeah. Laggy Scout saves the day. So yeah, it's one of those, just mostly wanted to bring it up as a counterpoint to show how important that rotation was, and how, making sure that you are strong is, or so that show strength against those really shallow doorways. Good chase. That's how you stuff bad pushes or overloading on one side. They can't flash 5 people, so and if they could, that's good for you too. So yeah, just making sure you always have somebody sticking point and playing more aggressively as heavy. Also, you guys can consider pyro in disad situations like that. You don't have to do it, but a lot of teams like to. I don't think anything interesting is happening. A lot of people have a sentry there and like a pyro there, or sorry, pyro somewhere around here and like a sentry here. And basically, you just stuff anybody in this doorway. You die for it, but they don't win. So, generally worth it. So when you're pushing out here, getting that medic is a great kill, but that medic has not been healing anybody since the that medic is their last survivor. You have to assume. Yeah, you have to assume they're at like nothing. I would be like, let's just guess they have 20%. Maybe. So you have ad. Okay. So we're watching the chase out. See the med. We're going for it. The worst possible thing that could happen to you guys right now is a medic drop. If you lose your medic, you lose a lot of the advantage that you have, especially if you consider how much trouble you've had pushing from second to third, or sorry, to mid. So, if I'm pocket scout, especially, I'm really peeking. You don't have stickies to worry about right now, but a soldier is like your biggest risk. Getting that med kill, if you don't kill that med, med survives somehow. You have 40 ad still. Like that's plenty of ad to do whatever you need to do with. If you kill that med, you get full ad. Great. But that's not that big of a difference. The difference between 40 ad and evens or 40 ad and disad is monstrous. So, you know, you should go kill that med and it should be fine. But your pocket scout should really be taking this slow. And if sorry about that, anything should be trying to bait out soldier bombs, and then running back in and saving the med type stuff. So what is going on here? Just as a addendum to that, I think that your med here does a really good job of understanding the risks that they're in. So, especially after you get that med kill, I think it's acceptable to, if your team is not playing it as slow as they should be, or that you think that you need them to be in order to be safe, not healing them for a little bit and just, bunkering up is totally reasonable. So going slow, I mean, that is a little bit of a blind corner, so, be careful there. But yeah, I think that's totally acceptable. Stu was going for a med sack effectively anyway, so totally fine. And I even like that you're baiting here a little bit. You can't expect to hit those arrows, but that's totally fine. And then I really like going up here, putting some distance there. It's totally if they raid scouts, who cares? So that's great. You just preserved, huge ad. You're up to, I don't know that you know this, but you probably should assume you have 40% ad. Then time's out. But yeah, that could have been definitely get one more point out of that, if not a whole round win. So is it not time? It's got to be time. People just yeah. Anyway, that's about it. I don't think if I can do a quick summary on stuff. Summary is on mid fights. Everyone's grouping up, can't be grouping up. Scouts can push a little bit lower, peak lower. Having a scout up there is great. Even having a scouter here or here can work out just fine. Your soldiers, Radiant needs to get out if possible. If they're spamming, you can't get out, no big deal. You do your spam wars, you're happy. But if they're not spamming you, if the eyes aren't on you, if there's no sticky trap, get in there, do some high bombs, do some work, go with your other soldier. Try to be more aggressive, because it will allow your scouts and demo man to not be grouped up, because that's what's getting you killed. Basically, you can just pressure Deuce and Stews alone, and then turn it onto the combo while just effectively putting their palm on Radiant's forehead, and just keeping them at arm's length. That's your mids. Biggest issue you have there. On your seconds, we didn't see a lot of it, but be careful about bombs a little bit more. There were a couple times that soldiers got bombs that, sometimes it works, but a lot of times it shouldn't. Having a scout up here, you could theoretically get a scout up here, but usually it's not worth the hassle. Making sure you have enough eyes to deny anybody up top. And then medic I really like here as medic a lot of the time if they're coming in through house, because they're pressuring, if they're combos here, they can pressure here, a soldier sacking all the way across here, you can just duck in, you're totally fine. But the counter to that is if they're going through alley, they can take a lot of space before they have to commit. So often what you need to do is rotate your heals a little bit over here and just adjust your spam accordingly. But again, making sure that you're playing to be able to turn corners and otherwise make it more difficult for somebody bombing you to get on you. That's a little bit better. For last holds, your last holds are generally pretty good. Making sure that you're doing those rotations, keep your heavy from not being back there, get those sentries up early, and then having your stickies, if you're on disad, getting stickies on point, you got like a double kill with that shit, so that's great. And then otherwise just diversifying your stickies. You can also rotate them. You got like 3 kills. I don't know that I showed many of them, but like 3 kills by people just continuously coming up and doing that. I think it's totally fine, but you could have done it with 4 stickies instead of 6 or 8, and instead put like, 2 there or 2 there, or whatever, just to make people scared. Or even what you can do is put a couple stickies there. They clear them, think they're good. They turn the corner and you kill them that way. So yeah, all that's pretty good. We see on last pushes. I don't know that we saw much crazy stuff. I think that you guys won a lot of those in transition. I don't think that we saw a lot of second pushes either. So seems like a lot of that is coming from mid fights going wrong or going well. I guess Radiant could hang back a little bit or get more in sync with his team. Sometimes he's a little caught out. But that's pretty much it. Obviously, there's always a million things to improve, but I think that with a couple relatively small focuses, you guys will see a lot of improvement really quickly. So, best of luck this weekend.